Hi guys, this is Riya Deshwal and you're back on my channel Crux of English, and today we're going to talk about Chaucer's contemporaries. So the first one that I'm taking is William Langland. So the most important work of William Langland was Piers the Plowman. Now I'll tell you certain things that you have to remember, and then I'll just tell you a bit of the storyline that goes around in this poem. First of all, it is a poem of 1800 lines. You need to remember that. Second thing is that this poem is actually written in two parts. First one is called Vision of Piers, and the second one is called The Search for Do Way, Do Bet and Do Best. So what you need to remember is here do way, do bet and do best. These are three different allegorical figures that are presented by William Langland. What they are is do well, do better and do best. Now, what actually this poem depicts is the corruption among clergy, misery of the needy, and upholds the dignity of labor. Now I'll tell you how this poem actually depicts all these things. So first let me tell you the storyline of this poem. In the first part, the Vision of Piers, there is a place called Malvern Hill. The narrator is actually lying on this hill and he is dreaming. So what happens in this dream is that the narrator is lying and he actually starts dreaming about this crowd that is gathered together, and in this crowd there are all the people ranging from working men to actually the higher classes. So what happens is, what he wants to depict here is that all these working men are working, they're working really hard, but the fruits of their labor are actually going to the higher classes or the clergy, which is due to the leader of this group, the leader of these high class people, which is known as bribery. Now Langland has also presented bribery as an allegorical figure. So this is what happens in the first part. In the second part, what happens is that all these seven deadly sins come to this plowman, Piers the Plowman, and he is plowing his half-acre land. They all come to him and they ask him to guide all these seven deadly sins into the field of truth, but actually Piers the Plowman denies them and tells them that he has to toil his land because his work is all that matters to him. So that's what happens in Piers the Plowman. You can see there is misery of needy, how there is corruption among clergy with the form of bribery, and the third thing is the dignity of labor, which actually Piers the Plowman held by denying the seven deadly sins to go along with them. So that was all about William Langland. Let's move on to the next contemporary. So the next contemporary we're going to talk about is John Mandeville. There is not a lot to actually say about him. The things that you should remember about him are written here. He was a person who traveled and he used to write travelogues. That is the major contribution of Mandeville. Now the things that you need to remember is that he crossed the sea in 1322 and he actually went to explore Asia. He published this book called Voyage and Travel of Sir John Mandeville. It was published in 1356 in French, and then in 1375 it was translated in English. Now the third thing that you need to remember is that actually there was the influence of Odere, Columbus and Marco Polo. You know, these are the great travelers of that time. So there is the influence of all these travelers, and he has actually taken stories from different travelogues of all these travelers and a lot more travelers. Okay, let's move on to the next one. John Wycliffe. Now he is an important person in of this generation because he was the first one who actually laid the first brick for Protestantism, the coming Protestant church that we would see in Reformation. He was the first one who actually laid the bricks for this movement, and that's why he is also called as Morning Star of Reformation. All his followers were called Lollards. Now, what you need to remember is that he was a university man, he was a scholar, he himself belonged to the higher classes, but he was in opposition of the hierarchy that was present in Catholic Church because of all the corruption that was going on in the church, and he was actually against the privilege. He wanted all the working men, all the middle classes and the lower classes to have the same opportunities and the same privilege that the upper class people had. For that, I think he took a very big step. What he did was he wrote Wycliffe's Bible, which is actually a translation from Latin Vulgate. Now what he did was, why is this Bible so important, is because this is the first English translation of Bible. Now what you need to remember is why he did it. He did it in order to present a precedent for the fact that the working men or the middle class should also have the privilege to read Bible. The people in the church should not be the only one who are presenting this Bible or the verses of Bible to the working men or the middle class people, because they were the ones who were actually, the clergy were the ones who were actually corrupting the Bible, and they were presenting it as what they wanted rather than what Bible presented. So what he did was he put this Bible in the hands of the general people so that they could also have an idea what is actually written in the Bible. So that is all about John Wycliffe. Let's move on to the next. Talk about John Gower now. The first thing that you need to remember is that he wrote 3 important works that you need to remember: Miro Dilium, Vox Clementis, and Confessio Amentis. Both these works are written in Latin. He wrote different works in 3 different languages: Latin, French and English. This work is actually a commentary on marriage and the fall of married men. Vox Clementis is actually written about the peasants' revolt that we have already talked about, and it is a commentary on the corrupt government. Okay. The third work that he wrote was Confessio Amentis, that is written in English, and it has prologue and 8 different books. So this work was actually asked by Richard II. He said that Richard II thinks that there is not a lot of work that is written in English literature, so he wanted John Gower to write a work in English, and he did that. It is also a source for Pericles, that is written by Shakespeare in the later times. Now what you need to remember is that Chaucer called him Moral Gower for this work, Vox Clementis. That is all about John Gower. Let's move on to the next one. What I'm going to talk about is John Lydgate. He's the last writer that I'm going to talk about in Age of Chaucer. So the plots of all these works are not very important. So what I've done is just written the name of the work and the thing that is important to remember against the name of the work. The first one is Serpent of Division. So this is an account about Julius Caesar. Next one is Fall of Princess. It is based on Boccaccio's work De Casibus Virorum Illustrium. It is a French work. The third one is Reason and Sensuality. It was a French allegorical poem about chastity, from where Lydgate has actually taken the plot of this poem. The next one is Troy book. It is about the Trojan War. We all know about the Trojan War. So it was written on the command of Henry V. The next one is Sea of Thieves. This is sort of important because it was written in response to Canterbury Tales. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. So what Lydgate does in this poem is that he imagines himself as a pilgrim joining all those pilgrims on the pilgrimage to St. Thomas Becket in Canterbury Tales, and he writes this poem in the same structure as Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. The next one is the Complaint of Black Knight. It is based on Book of Duchess that was written by Chaucer. So I think you can very well see that there is a major influence of Boccaccio and Chaucer on John Lydgate. Another thing that you need to remember is this is the only prose work that was written by Lydgate. Other than that, all of the works that he wrote were actually poems. So guys, that was it about Age of Chaucer. I hope you liked the video, and if you liked the video, please press that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for the next age that we're going to talk about. Thank you for watching.